Hi guys, it's Professor Fernandez and welcome to your lesson about point of view. We're going to get into some interesting things here about point of view, so let's get started. An interesting thing about point of view is that it's 100% the writer's decision. That means that when we're looking at argument, looking at point of view is crucial. Questioning why a story was told the way it was helps you get to the argument. Now, when you're looking at point of view, I want you to think about the word perspective. In what perspective is the story being told in? That way, it will help you to decide what point of view a story is being told and why. Of course, the narrator is the person or entity that is telling the story at any given time. But sometimes trying to find out who the narrator is kind of tricky. One thing that's tricky is that sometimes the narrator isn't the character whose point of view is telling the story. It could be that the narrator is in the periphery of the story or not even in the story, and the point of view character may not be narrating the story. So let's get into it. The 3 different types of point of view. Let's take notes here. First person is easy. The narrator is automatically using I or we, and they're telling the story. They're giving us their point of view and they're giving us the emotion. The question you have to ask here is, are we as the readers getting the real story? Because we're getting the perspective of one person, the only person telling us the story, we don't know if that person is reliable or not. We don't know if they're telling the truth or not. So we, as the reader, are limited to the story based on their emotions, their feelings, their thoughts, their interpretations. And because we don't know and can't really rely on what they're telling us, that can lead to an unreliable narrator. Watch out for these, because there's a reason why the writer is using an unreliable narrator to tell the story. Second person is not often used, but when it's used, boy, does it have an impact. It puts the reader directly in the story. It almost makes them part of it, and thus it has an intimate feel. It can make the reader feel uneasy. In second person, readers can feel uneasy because they're being asked to be part of the story and to consider the things that the characters are considering in the story. But the use of second person here is 100% intentional by the writer. They are building their argument by making the reader uncomfortable by using the second person. The question you have to ask here is why. Think of third person narration as a type of reporting, where the narrator is telling the reader what exactly is going on. They may be in the story or on the periphery of the story. But even then, this gets a little complicated. There's, of course, different types of third person. Third person objective, super easy. The narrator is reporting what's happening. You don't get any thoughts, you don't get any feelings. Everything is 100% observational. Third person omniscient is probably something you're used to. They consider it the godlike view. That means the third person can pop in and out of people's heads and feelings and emotions. This is the ultimate control for the writer and at times can be seen as cold. Here's the fun one, the limited or close third point of view, which literally is limiting to just one character's perspective. However, this isn't first person. This controls the reader's perspective on the story. Now that you know the many types of points of views, especially third person point of view, these are some things to consider when you're deciding if a story is in a certain point of view. Think about who is telling the story versus whose perspective the story is in. Just because the person is telling the story doesn't necessarily mean that they're the character whose lenses we are watching or reading the story through. Emotions versus actions. Are there emotions and thoughts, Well, that could probably be third person omniscient, it could be first person, or is it just actions? Well, that means it's just a regular third person. And whose thoughts are we invited to know? If we're invited to know the thoughts and feelings of some characters and not others, then we're probably talking about a third person, close or limited. Now that you know everything you need to know about point of view, what type of point of view is your favorite? Send me an email and let me know.